by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. Please join us at our opening hymn, number 349 in your gray hymnal, We Gather Together, and rise as you're willing and able in body or spirit. Please join us in our responsive reading as you remain standing. As we enter this sacred silent space,
let us renew both our commitment and our covenant.
There are those among us who have endured a loss in the past week.
May their hope be uplifted again in this community of faith.
There are those among us who have struggled with hardship in the past week.
May they find renewed strength in this community of faith.
There are those among us who have wrestled with questions that seem to have no answer in the past week.
May they find sanctuary during their search in this community of faith.
There are those among us who have cherished an unexpected joy in the past week.
May their rejoicing be celebrated in this community of faith.
As we commit to continue our free and responsible search for truth, may we covenant to honor the many paths that have led us to this community of faith.
So may it be.
And in this spirit, let us now turn and greet the holy in our midst by greeting our neighbors briefly. It's always hard to put the genie back in the bottle with that one. And now is a message for all ages. Do you want everybody to come up?
Sure.
Okay, all children of all ages, come on up.
It's all right. Stand. What nice little interlude music. I like that. So, yet again, we're going to have some more questions for everybody. I hope everybody's having fun. We're ready to gorge ourselves next week, right? So, before we do all that, we're just going to talk a little bit about some house cleaning things, right? Who here has ever gone through their closet? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Maybe your parents make you do it, right? Maybe not the most enjoyable of tasks, but it needs to be done every now and then, little housekeeping. So I'm wondering, real quickly, anybody, how do you decide what stays and what goes? If you've used it, okay. If it fits, okay. You say again, Stella. If it fits. Anybody else? Maria Kondo, anybody? Go ahead. How it feels when you touch it. Sentimental value, yeah. These are all. Ooh, yes. Yes. That's a good one. So, let's see here. When you're all done looking through your closet, what normally makes the cut? What do you think stays? What are some qualities of the things that stay? Maybe it's like seasonal. Everybody needs a hat, right? We don't want to throw those away. Comfy. Fits? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Go ahead. Calming. Okay. You say calming, right? I'm old and like my ears don't work very well. I'm just making sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to switch gears here real quick. So who remembers how old this church is? 500,000 years? I don't think it's like that. I think some people probably remember close to the beginning. Go ahead. A century old? I don't know. 42 years? Okay. All right. So 42 years ago. Oh my gosh, that was within my lifetime. 42 years ago. What were people wearing back then? What did their closets look like? Bell bottoms. Oh yeah. Anybody else? Dresses. Okay. Tie-dye t-shirts. What'd you say? Tweed coats. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're talking about all sorts of stuff that I was wearing while I was your age. This is awesome. I love it. Okay. So, they all had to have something similar to us, right? Because there was still like weather. So they probably had shorts. They probably had hats. They probably had coats. So back 40 some odd years ago, they still had some things in their closet that we would have in our closet today. So, thinking about this, those people who came here on Sunday, they heard sermons like us. They prayed the prayers like we did. They read the readings like we do. And they sang hymns and songs. They did the stuff that was important. Now, these things that they believe, their religious ideas, are kind of like our clothes in our closet, right? Sometimes we got to go through every now and then and clean house. And we need to look at our beliefs every so often and ask ourselves, does this still fit? Does this still feel good? Is this something that we should be doing in the sanctuary? Just little things we got to ask ourselves every now and then. You know, perhaps they're too worn out to wear in public. Maybe there's something that we've borrowed from somebody else and that we just don't really use anymore. We want to look at our beliefs, and we want our beliefs to reflect who we are really on the inside, and to see if those still fit and see if they still work, and what the meaning for us, and if they still have meaning for us when we wear them. And like our clothes, we want our beliefs to change just a little with us as we grow and change, so that they always remain part of who we are and who we are. Okay? So let's go downstairs and we will talk a little bit more about stuff.
Go now in peace. the Spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may
May I make a correction? I was married in this church 53 years ago, so I told you.
go. It's much older, but it was a good story. Our reading this morning is by the Reverend Dr. Kendall Gibbons, who was my internship supervisor and is currently the minister at the All Souls congregation in Kansas City. She writes, "Our communities of memory and promise are founded upon covenants because we all need a defense against the impulse of immediate feelings that challenge our best intentions. It is necessary to be reminded from time to time of what you said you were going to do and what you really want over and above the lure of momentary comfort. Covenant is our word for the solemn promises that counteract the randomness of a future in which anything and everything is possible by committing us in advance to certain relationships and values. We do this because what we build with intention and even with difficulty is more satisfying in the long run than the pleasures that we happen to encounter. We do it in time-consuming rituals, invoking powers that we scarcely know how to name, because we are seeking some way to give our lives the density and dignity and depth that we suspect with longing might be possible." So ends our reading. At this time, we take the opportunity to fulfill our weekly commitment to assist as we are able the greater community outside our doors. And as we live out our values in the world, we also ask those who join us today to align their financial commitments with our values here. We are sharing the plate this month. Excuse me. And who are we sharing the plate with? All right. It's in your order of service. So please be generous as you are able to be. To donate to the congregation, you can go to uucqc.org. At the bottom of that page, there is a donate page that will allow you to donate via PayPal with a credit card. While the offering is being taken, we invite you to come forward and light a candle for any joy or concern, sorrow, or milestone written in your heart and life. If there are any written in the Joys and Concerns book here, we will be sharing those, and any that may have been shared with us online will be read after the offertory. among the joys and concerns shared with us today. What a joy to have been a part of yesterday's first vendor fair. Congratulations to Diane Harrington for the vision and the team who all made it happen. Do we have anything online? All right. If you need support, please feel free to contact the Congregational Office, the Pastoral Care Team at care@uucqc.org, or any member of the Pastoral Care Team or myself. Let us become aware of the energy that brings us together in shared joys and concerns as we move into a time of quiet. May we each open our minds and hearts to a place of calm and allow the coming of love to fill us. My colleague, Krista Taves, who serves in St. Louis, has shared with us the following. Spirit of love, of life and love, God of grace and mercy, source of all things that changes us as we cannot change ourselves. We gather today as a covenanted community of spiritual seekers, coming together in a rainbow of diversity, united by our conviction that the wounds of this world can be healed through compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, and courage. And by healing, we do not mean restored to some mythical original purity, but brought into a new place with greater wisdom, wholeness, and liberation than could have been envisioned before. This community is on a journey from one home to another, and yet in truth we know that each one of us is on a journey, and all our journeys place us before forks in the road. These places ask us to make choices, saying yes to some things, saying no to others, grieving in what we must leave behind, rejoicing in the blessings, often unexpected, that come our way. In these journeys, some will choose to walk with us, and some will choose another path. Some will pause for a while, withdrawing into their own places of transformation where we cannot follow. Some of these partings happen gently and lovingly, others with judgment and disappointment. It is our calling to accept these things as a testament to our strength and our fragility, and to trust in the process, even as we fear the unknown, even as whispers of beloved memories draw us deep into our own hearts, even when we see more clearly where we have come from than where we are going. The journey asks us to keep walking. Let us enter into a time of communal silence for the individual prayers and meditations of our hearts. Spirit of life, we ask for patience. We ask for understanding. We ask for compassion. We ask for hope and gratitude so that we may welcome our collective and individual journeys with open hearts, open minds, and open hands. Amen, and blessed be. Please join us now in our hymn of meditation, number 16 in your gray hymnal, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple," and rise as you're willing and able in body and spirit.
This is very short, so twice through.
Yes. To be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. Turn, we'll be our beloved, draw by ought to make. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When in truth simplicity is gained, now and to bed we gently unshaken. Turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round. Thank you. Please be seated. Sometime I'll take you through the Shaker actual movements for that. There's actually a dance that goes with that is a part of the Shaker theology. In November of 1620, this was 422 years ago, in a cabin below the damp decks of the sailing ship Mayflower, the Puritan settlers established the first European covenant of self-government in North America. Now keep in mind, there have been Native American covenants prior to this. The Mayflower Compact was based simultaneously upon a majoritarian model of the settlers' allegiance to the king. It was, in essence, a social contract in which the settlers consented to follow the community's rules and regulations for the sake of order and survival. The Pilgrims had lived for some years in Leiden, a city in the Dutch Republic. Historian Nathaniel Philbrick states, just as spiritual covenant had marked the beginning of their congregation in Leiden, a civil covenant would provide the basis for a secular government in North America. With a headwind, the voyage took 2 months, from early September through early November, after sailing from Plymouth, England, and having been shipbound in port for a month prior to departure. So they were on the ship for 3 months, some of it just sitting in port. And with dwindling supplies and illness, the 102 passengers mostly inhabited what was called the gun deck, where the cannons and almost all their personal belongings were stored, a space roughly 50 feet by 25 feet. That's just over 12 square feet per passenger. So that would be 3 foot by 4 foot, with a 5-foot high ceiling. Now, I know some of us dealt with a lot of close, cramped quarters during COVID, but I don't think it was that bad. I can only imagine the courage and fortitude it took for that group of religious refugees to leave behind everything they knew and fly headfirst into the unknown. For them to embrace risk and radical changes in their circumstances, they entered into covenant with each other in order to navigate the changes ahead and to better fulfill their lives in spiritual vision and mission. We use the word covenant around our Unitarian Universalist congregations a lot. We have a congregational covenant, we said in the service sometimes. Not in this congregation, but in others, and that may be something we should explore as a congregation. A covenant is what UU theologian Rebecca Parker calls freely chosen and life-sustaining interdependence. And the Reverend Robert Latham defines a religious covenant as a compact among a group of people which states their mission and how that mission will be transformed into reality by their life stewardship. Now, this is not the same thing as stating a belief or a purpose. Those may not entail any pledge or commitment to fulfill or carry them out. A covenant, on the other hand, is explicit in its intention to fulfill its purpose. Latham offers that while purpose calls for an empowerment of its vision, covenant empowers its vision with commitment. Let me repeat that. While purpose calls for an empowerment of its vision, covenant empowers its vision with commitment. When I work with couples to help them craft their wedding ceremonies, one of the things we often talk about is the difference between a contract and a covenant. And I used to ask this question, and realized after a while it was kind of a trick question. And I only had one person who ever got it right, and he was a truck driver. I had a professor of contract law got it wrong. A contract is an ends-oriented agreement, while a covenant is a process-oriented agreement. One says that what you will get in the end, like in a divorce decree or a settlement, and the other, such as wedding vows, talks about how you will walk with each other through the vicissitudes of life. This is the kind of covenant that ministers make when they are called by congregations, and congregations make to the minister. We are a covenantally based denomination as opposed to Orthodox religions. Orthodox religions say what will happen in some end state. We don't know, but we talk about how we will walk with each other in exploring the possibilities. That is the significant difference between us in many ways. So a covenant is not static. It is not wedded to the status quo, but to the community's vision. It is not static, but dynamic, with an intention to support growth and change. Currently, there is a move afoot to change the principles and purposes and replace them with other types of statements. This is something that you will be seeing and hearing more about in the coming months and year from our association. This is a part of the dynamism of our covenants. Covenant is how we will live together in our daily rounds. It is keeping determines if we are in right relationship with each other. My colleague, the Reverend Victoria Safford, who's currently serving the Des Moines congregation, she says the central question for us is not what do we believe, but more what do we believe in, and to what larger love, to what people, principles, values, and dreams shall we be committed? To whom, to what are we accountable? In a tradition so deeply steeped in individualism, it becomes a spiritual practice for each of us to ask, not once and for all, but again and again, even over 90 years of life, how do I decide which beautiful, clumsy, and imperfect institutions will carry and hold, in the words of one congregation's bond of union, my name, hand, and heart? The life of the Spirit is solitary, but our answers to these questions call us to speak, call us to live in the plural. Covenants ask and answer two basic questions. Why have we come together, and how are we to be together? What are our purposes in making this free and mutual agreement? And in that light, how do we go about living with each other? Consequently, covenantal living confers identity and builds community. When our covenant is clear about why we are together and how we will be so, especially in change, we know where we want to go and how we will get there together. The visible outworkings of our covenant are our ministry. The Reverend Robert Latham says, ministry is covenant in action. It is covenant stewardship. And the only appropriate gauge for measuring the effectiveness of ministry is the covenant it seeks to embody. It is through covenants, freely, mutually entered into, that we recognize and exercise our freedom of will and choice. Hence, we are also called to recognize the free will of others and our responsibility to the obligations. And for the obligations we recognize towards each other, in the particular and in the general. Engaging with each other through our covenant groups is a profound way to make real and personal the potentials of covenantal religion. Covenant making and keeping is at the core of what it means to be Unitarian Universalist. Implicitly or explicitly, a covenant expresses our collective understanding of what we hold to be of worth and what our relationship is to it. It may be a belief in a divine salvation through grace, or inherent worth and dignity and interconnection through the web of all existence. In this, the purpose of covenantal community is to call us back into commitment to our chosen relationships when we stray from them, as we all too often do. One of the definitions of religion is religion comes from the root word ligament, ligio. To re-religion is to reconnect, to rebind us back, to recall us back to that of ultimate worth and meaning. The Persian Sufi mystic Rumi reminds us, "Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come, yet again come," he says. Now, Rumi is not just addressing some passing group of people, but he's speaking directly to those who made ultimate violations of the covenant that he knew in his community. Wanderers refer to those who left the covenant. Worshippers refer to those who leave to worship idols. Come back, come back, come, yet again come. If part of the promise in a lived Unitarian Universalism is that encouragement to spiritual growth and the acceptance of one another as we search for truth and meaning, then that part of the promise must be allowed each and every Sunday for each and every age, whether we have been hurt by another place's definition of religion or spirituality. And a lot of us bear a lot of those painful scars and damaged lives from other places' definitions of religion and spirituality in the past, or still seek to gain some harm done in the name of religion today. Living that promise is being willing to meet the other person along the way and to keep the living covenant together, even if so many of our beliefs and experiences are so very different. Covenants, in their very nature, embody basic theological understandings we hold as UUs. First, we have free will to make sense and express our understanding of our relationships with each other, and that which we consider of ultimate importance. Secondly, we each have value in and of ourselves, which must be recognized and respected by each other through our obligations to each other individually and collectively. This recognition of the inherent worth and dignity of the other person only exists if we actually express that. It's like human rights don't exist unless they are actually enforced in some way. Thirdly, our emphasis on the ways we will be with each other as a process and not just as a means to an end is a manifestation of our understanding that existence is in motion. It is incremental and constantly evolving. And consequently, we do not know what will happen in the future, and that revelation and possibility are open and ongoing. We can assume neither damnation nor utopian progress, but have hope and optimism in the limitless possibilities of existence. As author Wendell Berry writes about the covenant of marriage in his book Standing by Words, he says, "We can join one another only by joining the unknown. Your union is going where the two of you and marriage, time, life, history, and the world will take it. You do not know the road. You have committed your life to a way." The very incremental nature of life means two things. One is that changing the world takes longer than we realize or want, often happening in ways we simply cannot predict. And secondly, fortunately, because of the very incremental nature of things, everything we do counts. That has saved me many times to remember that everything we do counts. Change actually holds great hope for us personally, as a congregation and as a society. With endings come the possibilities of renewal and recreation. Change is a part of living with all its grief and goodness. To be fully human, we must respect and embrace change with all its risks for doing harm, along with all of its powers and potentials for joy in creating the beloved community. Through our covenants, we call each other into free and responsible commitment to build our common good. We are being observed by many outside our faith and many inside our religion and the larger community to see what we will do with the potentials to influence the nature and shape of this religious landscape for the foreseeable future. If we take seriously our liberal ideas and principles of covenantal community as a way of living and being in the world, then to make real and concrete these covenantal ideals in this congregation and the larger community is not only desirable but necessary for the very manifestation and ongoing embodiment of the beloved community we aspire to foster and to be in the world. Like those Mayflower voyagers, those pilgrims, and they were on a pilgrimage. That's why they're called pilgrims. And we too here are on a pilgrimage in our transitions. Not only in all of the current moments of crisis, but in the lived commitments we make to each other as a religious community and as a society. In this UU faith, we are making commitment to build the common good. As our Universalist forebearers stated, the fate of one is the fate of all. There is no them. There is only us. When we walk and act together in our religious principles, our ability to effect change in the world is amplified. When we embrace our role as change agents as well as being affected by change, we are empowered. When we are committed and reliable, we become trustworthy to ourselves and to others. When we embrace patience and the knowledge that everything we do counts, we can be present and optimistic about the future. When we embrace and apply the truth, that best way to bring our UU values to fruition in the world is to live them out in our own lives, then our lives dancing on the web of changing interdependent existence will resonate with the singing harmonies of integrity and hope for a world made more fair with all of her people one. Holy power of connection, you who dwell within us and between us, let us remember, especially in these difficult times, that you are powerful, precious, holy, and not alone. And that the mystery is that we are so connected, even when we may feel so far apart. Amen. Blessed be. Please join us now in our closing hymn in your teal hymnal 1064 or on the screen, and rise as you're willing and able, singing Blue Boat Home. Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land guide by the starry sea. Leading over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the sea. Earthling here with my shoes companions, all weekend and river souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens, in our beautiful blue roads and the waves before me, hail the great winds setting beyond, read the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born among the fathoms, never why do the first the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue mountain Let us extinguish our chalice in unison. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community,
or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts
until we are together again. May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction until we are all changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming our better selves. May the Eternal bless you and protect you. May the Eternal smile on you and favor you. May the Eternal befriend you and prosper you and all people always. Amen, and blessed be. We'll ask you to be seated for the postlude and then come back after about 20 or 30 minutes to join in our conversation. See you back here shortly.